For over a century, Japan was torn apart by near-constant civil war, as rival warlords fought for control of the land in a period historians call the Sengoku, or Warring States era. In the middle of this chaos stood the samurai warriors trained not just to fight, but to survive years of brutal campaigns, sieges, and betrayal. Today, we're uncovering how samurai survived one of the most violent periods in Japanese history. Welcome back to How They Survived. The Sengoku period lasted roughly from 1467 to 1603, a time when Japan's central authority collapsed and regional warlords, known as daimyo, fought constantly for territory and power. This era produced some of Japan's most famous historical figures and reshaped the samurai class into highly organized, disciplined military forces. Samurai were the warrior class of feudal Japan, bound by a code of conduct that would later be idealized as Bushido, though the actual practices of samurai during the Sengoku period were often far more pragmatic and survival-focused than the romanticized image many people have today. Loyalty, discipline, and skill in combat were essential, but so was practical knowledge of logistics, terrain, and strategy. Warfare during this period was near constant, and samurai needed to be prepared not just for individual duels, but for large-scale battles, prolonged sieges, and long marches across Japan's mountainous terrain. Survival meant mastering not just swordsmanship, but an entire system of logistics, discipline, and adaptability. Feeding an army on the move was one of the greatest logistical challenges samurai commanders faced, and Japan developed several ingenious solutions. Rice was the foundation of the samurai diet, as it was for most of Japanese society. However, fresh rice wasn't practical for military campaigns, so soldiers relied heavily on a preserved form called hoshii steamed rice that was dried and could be reconstituted simply by soaking it in water, making it lightweight and long-lasting for extended campaigns. Another critical military food was a type of portable, compressed provision often referred to in historical texts as hyaru, which included dried rice, miso paste, and sometimes dried fish or vegetables, combined into compact, calorie-dense rations that soldiers could carry for days without needing to cook. Miso itself was extremely valuable. Militarily, it was nutrient-dense, provided essential salt and protein, and could be dissolved in hot water to make a quick, warming soup during cold campaigns. Umeboshi, pickled plums, were another common ration item, valued both for their long shelf life and for their believed ability to prevent fatigue and combat food poisoning during long marches, a belief with some basis, since the acidity does have mild antibacterial properties. Fish, particularly dried varieties, provided protein when available, and soybeans were used in various fermented forms, including natto and miso, both nutrient-dense and long-lasting. Commanders paid close attention to supply lines, since an army that ran out of food, regardless of its skill in battle, would quickly collapse. Some of the most successful daimyo of the era were known specifically for their logistical planning, ensuring their samurai and foot soldiers, called ashigaru, had reliable food supplies even during extended sieges or campaigns far from home territory. Samurai survival depended heavily on discipline, training, and strategic thinking, both on and off the battlefield. Armor and equipment were carefully designed for both protection and mobility. Lacquered lamellar armor provided defense against arrows and blades while remaining flexible enough for the wearer to move quickly, ride horses, and fight in close combat. Helmets, called kabuto, were often elaborately designed, sometimes intimidating opponents as much as protecting the wearer. Castles played a central role in samurai-era survival strategy. Japanese castles were built with sophisticated defensive features, steep stone walls, maze-like approaches designed to slow attackers, and elevated keeps that provided both defensive advantage and long-range visibility over surrounding territory. During sieges, castles were often stocked with substantial food reserves, allowing defenders to hold out for extended periods, sometimes months, waiting for reinforcements or a change in the political situation. Samurai were also trained extensively in more than just swordsmanship. Archery, spearfighting, and horsemanship were all essential skills, since battles rarely came down to simple one-on-one sword duels as popular media often suggests. Group tactics, formation fighting, and coordinated attacks were increasingly important as the Sengoku period progressed and larger, more organized armies became the norm. Intelligence gathering and espionage also played a significant role in samurai-era survival. Ninja, or shinobi, were often employed by daimyo specifically for reconnaissance, sabotage, and gathering information about enemy movements and defenses, practical tools of war, rather than the purely mystical figures often portrayed in modern fiction. Alliances and political maneuvering were just as important as battlefield skill. Many samurai and daimyo survived not through constant fighting, but through carefully calculated alliances, strategic marriages between rival clans, and, when necessary, timely surrenders or switches in allegiance to the winning side, a pragmatic approach to survival that sometimes conflicted with idealized notions of unwavering loyalty. Beyond the battlefield, samurai and the broader population of feudal Japan faced significant health and disease challenges during this turbulent era. Wound infection was a major concern, since even minor injuries could become fatal without modern antiseptics. Japanese battlefield medicine of the era included the use of herbal remedies, and moxibustion, a treatment involving burning dried mugwort near the skin, was used to treat various ailments, alongside acupuncture techniques that had been influenced by Chinese medical traditions. Smallpox and other infectious diseases periodically swept through Japan during this period, sometimes devastating both military camps and civilian populations. Crowded military encampments during long sieges created ideal conditions for disease to spread rapidly among soldiers, sometimes causing more casualties than actual combat. Malnutrition was a risk during prolonged sieges or when supply lines were disrupted, particularly for besieged castle defenders who had exhausted their food stores while waiting for relief forces. Historical accounts of famous sieges from this period describe defenders resorting to eating anything available, including horses and, in extreme cases, leather and other non-traditional food sources, once conventional supplies ran out. Dysentery and other gastrointestinal illnesses were common in military camps due to unsanitary conditions, contaminated water sources, and the challenges of managing waste for large gathered armies, particularly during extended campaigns away from established settlements. The samurai who survived Japan's century of civil war weren't just skilled fighters, they were master strategists who understood logistics, alliances, and the brutal practicalities of extended warfare. From portable rice rations to sophisticated castle defenses to calculated political alliances, samurai survival was built on adaptability just as much as martial skill. It's a reminder that even in one of history's most romanticized warrior traditions, survival often came down to preparation, resourcefulness, and knowing when to fight and when not to. If you enjoyed this look into samurai survival during Japan's Warring States era, subscribe for more, because next time on How They Survived, we're heading to another brutal chapter of human history. See you in the next video.